I have a birthday this week. I'm turning 69. I graduated from high school in 69, so this could be a good year. When I came to the Catholic Student Center, I was 40 years old. I was Troy's age. I was 40, which at that time was younger than most parents of our students. Now I'm turning 69. And I'm way older than most of the parents of our students. And students are still 20. I do have to ask the question every day if I'm still relevant to this younger generation that is way younger now than I am. If I have anything really still to say to them. I used to get invited to fraternity parties and cross-country parties all the time. Not so much anymore. But maybe that's a good thing. One of the strange things about being my age is that most all of my bosses now are younger than I am. But I do have to say I love that. Anna and Simeon, two of my favorite people in the Bible, they make their appearance today. They make their appearance just once every 7 years or so in the lectionary of our church. But Anna and Simeon, they're two of my favorites. They're both retired and old. They hung out in the temple like older people do. But religion had left them with its best, hopeful for the world and expectant for the next best thing. Not just sitting around thinking about the past. They were not to be dismissed because of their age. Far from it. Not these two. Many of us have unconscious social biases despite our best intentions. We lose interest in who the person is and render the elderly invisible, denying them the dignity of being seen. Ageism is an immediate dismissal of another because of their age. For old people, beauty doesn't come from hormones the way it does for the young. It has to do with who the person is. And the great tragedy of our culture of appearances is that people seem to disappear from our scope of curiosity as they grow old. Just because they are not pretty anymore, maybe. I have a good friend who's in her 50s now, who works with and truly loves older people. She established this circle of boxing classes for Parkinson's victims. And it's amazing to me how much she loves them. She said to me, and I quote, "They look so unsexy, but when you get to know them, they are so full of wisdom and humor. They don't take themselves so seriously, and they are so authentic. Lots to learn from them." They might not be so exciting to talk to anymore, and perhaps irrelevant, we assume. Unless I can network with them, they are a waste of my time. Perhaps we find many of them, if not most, boring. If that were said of on any race, we would recoil. But this is for most of us unconscious until we start talking about them or avoiding them. In which case, we find ourselves staring into this particular ism. Yes, their limitations can be annoying, hard of hearing, slow of speech and movement perhaps, lots of repetition, talking too much about the past and their outdated opinions and those mini lectures. Oh, we are, by and large, polite to them, but politeness can be its own dismissal. Truth is, those are experiences we have with any age group, but we can locate them almost immediately in the elderly. What do older folks add to my plate that I need in my life? Perspective. Perspective, I think, is one. The view from here of this world, of our life. Stories of survival, what they made it through over their years. So many losses and heartbreaks, and even wars still. So much that they've survived that they can help me find the confidence and the perspective that I too can survive what's happening in this world and to myself. And wisdom, finding the meaning of all this, connecting the dots, like we can't when we have yet to have those experiences, or very many of them at least. And they bring the gift of the sense of the mystery of time. They can listen to me and love me and look past so much because they have looked past so much. And they have so much less to prove. No need to impress. Simeon and Anna were so other-centered, so attentive to this immediacy that they saw more than most of us could see rushing past in our busy, younger lives. They saw the sorrow in the heart of this young mom, the potential of this baby and what it would someday suffer, because they were available. They were utterly, interiorly available and relaxed and attentive to what was right in front of them so that they could listen to the heart of these two, listen to the heart of this mom and her baby. These grandparents were past the point of worrying about what other people think of them or their image. And their main focus, the main focus of anybody who gets past their self-centeredness, their main focus is not themselves, but everybody around them. So much so that even their silence is comforting. Happy old persons are extremely selfless. They're so ready to listen to us and help us with whatever is going on. With them, we won't be judged. And old persons will sit and listen, and they have all the time in the world to sit and listen. And so we let our guard down. We go to lunch with them, and they're so there. They're not rushing off. They're not looking at their clock like everybody else is. They're happy to be wherever they are, happy in that moment. We younger folks, we can be intimidated by old people. What do I talk about with them after the first 3 minutes? I don't know how to relate to them. But in some ways, I have to say they're even more relatable if we give them a chance. In some ways, they're the most relatable and easiest because they've been around so long. Chances are anything you're going through, I'm going through, they've been through. And so they have this outlook on life so different than my own. I can learn from them, and I can, in the process, make them feel valuable. Before my dad died at the age of 99, I wanted to ask him every question I had left in me. I had lots of time to do that in his last 50 years when I started listening. He wasn't dead a week when I started thinking of more questions I wished I would have asked him. I think of some of the older people in our community that I call our grandfathers in faith, that I turn to again and again when I need guidance in some of the decisions we have to make. I think, for example, of Marilyn Eckwart, who was my Anna. She was so dedicated to me and to the CSC, retired, and she just volunteered hours and hours of time. Many of you don't know her. I think of Mary Ellis Jennings, who was this beautiful old woman who came in those while I was still in my 40s, and would just soften my heart every time I saw her. And when I give her a kiss on the cheek, my lips would just melt into that old cheek, and I gotta tell you, I can still feel the beauty of that. I really can. And I think of Marie Edding, who died a couple years ago now. She was 90. She was one of the most open-hearted, minded people I've ever met. She was a Presbyterian, went to church every Sunday in her Presbyterian church, but so often slipped into the back of our church because she so loved what was happening here and so championed this place and me. And I think of two current wisdom figures, old people in my life. Bill Danforth. Bill Danforth, 92 now. I think of him every day. I'm eager to get time with him. I have so many questions to ask him about the world and how it works, how he ever had the desire he had to change the world, especially St. Louis, which he loved with all his heart. Bill is an amazing mentor to me still. And then there's Sister Joan Barton. Joan just entered into her 90th year a couple weeks ago, last week actually. She worked with Native Americans for 29 years, as long as I've been here. And she's just so everything I call holy, attentive, and her love for the earth is phenomenal, and for justice. Sister Joan Barton. I don't know if you had a chance, and I'm not going to say all this at the 4:30 Mass because of the Super Bowl. But if you get a chance to see The Two Popes, the movie out on Netflix right now, I never endorse a movie here. I don't think I've ever done it. But I got to say, it's the most unbelievable experience of two old men creating an experience of relationship that changed both of them along the way. Makes you want to give everybody a chance to change, no matter how old they are. I highly recommend the movie Two Popes. I have a young friend who's just 25 now. I knew him his whole life because I was friends with his parents, but we started becoming real friends when he was just 13 years old. He was 13, and he kept seeking time with me, and he wanted to go for walks with me. He wanted me to go out to the farm with him, which I couldn't do until he turned 18. But I got to tell you, he was just 13, and he's always gravitated toward older people. And I asked him what he gets from older people in his life, and in his words, I just like being with them. I'm drawn to older folks. Even when I was just 13, I would sit and hang out with them. They were so peaceful to be with someone like that, who's just real and authentic. I gravitate to them. The experiences of grief I engage in with our students here are most often the death of a grandparent. It happens often during the university years. It is where our students cut their teeth on grief, their first experience of death. I don't usually give advice in a homily unless I'm giving it to myself, but since I'm old, and since today we celebrate two old people in this sacred text, let me give you some, no matter your age. If you're lucky enough to have them, call your grandparents this week. Ask them good questions. They are your Anna and Simeon. They had gifts to give you have yet to receive. I invite your questions to the older people in your life. I invite your attention too, because there's something they can teach you that is worth your life to learn. Some of the best loving I ever got was because they could. They had long ago worked through so much and survived so much. They do not carry the drama and the anxiety so many of us do. And come to this. We need older friends in our lives. They might not be as much fun. They might not be so attractive anymore. But they are a whole different kind of beautiful. And they sure do have wisdom and perspective for us if we open ourselves to receive it.